Thank you, Paul. I'm deeply honored to assume the role of president of this organization and to have the opportunity to stand in front of so many friends and colleagues who I've known over the years. Many of you are people I've worked with through AALS. Some of you are former colleagues from Georgetown. Some are current colleagues at the University of Richmond. And others of you I know only through your scholarship and reputation. But it's my hope that over the course of this year, I'll have the opportunity to work with all of you as we pursue our shared goals of further strengthening and supporting our system of legal education. I hope you'll indulge me a brief set of thank yous. First, to the staff of AALS. The work of this organization is made possible by an exceptionally dedicated staff who work behind the scenes. This year's annual meeting will have over 250 sessions with more than 1,000 moderators, speakers, and panelists. That means the number of things that could go wrong is really, really big. But this year, like every year, the staff makes it look easy. Most of what could go wrong doesn't. And if it does, it gets fixed so seamlessly that nobody notices. Thanks all to our wonderful executive director and staff. It's a group that strives for excellence. So if you noticed something that you think could have been better, let them know. But while you're at it, if you noticed something that went really well, you might consider mentioning that also. They're loyal and dedicated, and they deserve our deepest thanks. Second, I want to offer a special thanks to our outgoing president, Paul Marcus. A year ago, Paul announced his theme for the year was access to justice, and that's proven to be exceptionally appropriate. On January 27th last year, only a few weeks after Paul announced his theme and reminded us of the importance of access to justice, a remarkable thing happened. Lawyers and law professors and law students grabbed their computers and their cell phones and ran to our nation's airports. They sat on the floor underneath hand-lettered signs that read free legal help and in multiple languages. And if their access was blocked, the crowds broke into spontaneous chants of "Let the lawyers in." Let the lawyers in. It's a far cry from the more commonly invoked refrain. The line from Shakespeare, first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. Letting the lawyers in. It surely means expanding access to justice for millions of people around the country, whether they're refugees, victims of domestic violence, or small businesses needing to protect their intellectual property. Thank you, Paul, for your work on this important theme. There's another way in which letting the lawyers in can have important and much-needed social benefits. Lawyers are or can be healers of sorts. They are doctors of our social lives. And there's a role for lawyers to play in addressing what currently ails us, the deep polarization within our society. A recent survey by the Pew Research Center found that political polarization has increased dramatically over the last 20 years. It's not just that people disagree about important policy and social issues, that's always been true. But there are two new and disturbing trends that we're seeing. First, there are fewer political moderates, people who would hold what we think of as liberal views on some issues and conservative on others. And that means there's just less common ground. But more than that, people who inhabit the ideological silos tend to cut themselves off from those who do not share their full constellation of views. And the result is less opportunity to even find the common ground that exists. Second, our politics have become increasingly personal and almost tribal. We see those who disagree with us as unintelligent or ignorant, selfish, or even evil. Those of you of a certain age will remember Saturday Night Live point-counterpoint debates between Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, a takeoff on a segment by the same name on 60 Minutes. Aykroyd and Curtin would approach the debate with deadpan seriousness, and Aykroyd would begin with the same personal, deeply gendered slur. Jane, you ignorant. You remember the rest. At the time, we thought it was silly parody, ridiculous, not something you would hear an actual news commentator say. But that bit of comedy seems sadly prescient. As our society struggles with this problem of deep polarization, lawyers and law schools have a role to play. Lawyers are, after all, in the dispute resolution business. Resolving conflict is central to what we do. And today, perhaps more than ever, the skills that we as lawyers have and we as law professors teach are of critical importance. Lawyers understand how to structure decision-making and dispute resolution processes. We understand the importance of the opportunity to be heard and other aspects of fundamental fairness. We understand the importance of considering both sides, or all sides, and crediting the merits of opposing views. We understand the importance of facts, the ones we can prove, not merely the ones we wish to be true. And we understand the importance of getting opposite sides of an issue to the table, to get them talking with each other in the first place. Lawyers are not only comfortable navigating a world of conflict and disagreement, but they approach disagreements with a methodology that is built on recognizing the strength of opposing views. Legal pedagogy, like good lawyering, emphasizes the importance of developing a deep, even empathetic understanding of arguments on the other side. Our casebooks include the dissents, which force students to confront opposing arguments. In moot court, students are assigned the side they must argue, and sometimes they're asked to brief one side and argue the other. We constantly push our students away from the psychological comfort of certainty to that uneasy place where opposing views can loom large. Good lawyers and good judges also understand fallibility. Learned Hand once suggested that each court session should begin with the statement, "Think that we may be mistaken." This lawyerly approach to conflict and disagreement is reflected in our scholarship as well. The best scholarship engages with opposing views. It acknowledges weaknesses in one's own position and considers contrary position in the strongest light. To be sure, it seeks to persuade, but it seeks to do so on the strength of the ideas presented, never by simply belittling or dehumanizing those who hold opposing views. The point is not that arguments should be drained of emotion. Where the stakes are high, emotions will run high. But lawyers understand that disputes, even on matters upon which convictions are deeply held, need not be personal, that it's possible to separate the substance of the argument from the person making the argument. Lawyers likewise understand that it is possible to disagree without being disagreeable. Indeed, we're admonished to do just that in our principles of professionalism. Our traditions of professional respect and collegiality stand in marked contrast to what we sometimes see around us, and those traditions can be powerful. Picture, if you will, a courtroom in Durham, North Carolina in 1933, a courtroom in which no African American would be allowed to serve on a jury and certainly not allowed to serve as a judge. A courtroom in a courthouse that probably had segregated washrooms and drinking fountains. Into that courtroom walked William Hasty, an African American lawyer for the NAACP. And the spectators that day witnessed Mr. Hasty treated with a level of professional respect that they had never seen accorded an African American. And that demonstration of respect was, as Ken Mack has written, electric. Hasty himself reported back to the NAACP, town agog, incalculable good done, whatever the outcome. Lawyers are not social workers, but they are, as Lon Fuller put it, architects of social structure. And in that role as architects, we can be, enormously helpful in reconnecting a fractured world, that is, in building bridges. And we have some great examples of lawyers who built bridges and what they can accomplish. One who comes to mind for me is Chief Justice John Marshall, whose home is in Richmond, Virginia, and I've visited on multiple occasions. Known for his even temperament and collegiality, Marshall was a great practitioner of the gentle art of persuasion without rancor. He was an expert in what my Richmond colleague Kevin Walsh calls disagreeability. Marshall's approach was profoundly consequential. By building connections and finding common ground, he transformed the Supreme Court from an assembly of individual justices, each of whom wrote separate opinions speaking only for themselves, into an institution that could issue opinions of the court and speak with one voice. It was revolutionary, but so in keeping with a man who believed he could help to build a nation by building bridges between friends and foes alike. So that's my theme for the year, building bridges. Over the last few years, there's been much focus within the legal academy on building bridges between theory and practice, and that work should continue. But at this moment in time, we lawyers and educators of lawyers-to-be need to be building other bridges as well, and teaching our budding lawyers to build bridges in different ways. Society needs us to model civility and the John Marshall skill of disagreeability. Society needs us to model listening skills so that we can openly and honestly build dialogue with respect for others of different views. And society needs us to help to lead the way in dispute resolution, which requires civility, listening, open-mindedness, and a host of other skills that are part of the lawyerly repertoire. So over the course of the year, I hope to celebrate and encourage law schools as leaders of civil discourse, reasoned debate, and productive dispute resolution. I know that law schools are already active in this arena. You have programs explicitly designed to model our ideals of informed, respectful debate. You are training law students in the skills of dialogue across difference. You are serving as facilitators of deliberative decision-making on important policy issues. You're reaching out to local schools to train students and administrators in skills of conflict resolution. These are just a few of the ways that law schools are building bridges, and I hope we'll find ways to do more. Let us put our traditions of professionalism, civility, and reasoned disagreement on display for all to see. And let's inspire the next generation to think like a lawyer about society's problems, to listen, consider, reason, collaborate, resolve, and even heal. Let me close by thanking you for the many ways that you are already building bridges. You are not only modeling the best of our profession, you are also doing the work of building bridges within your law schools, your universities, and local communities, within the bar. And as scholars, you're calling out the ways that law facilitates or impedes the architecture of social structure and connection. That work you do as teachers, scholars, and lawyers has enormous impact. As we go forward with that work, I hope we will remember the admonition of a different Justice Marshall, Justice Thurgood Marshall. And a quote from him appears on the Virginia Civil Rights Memorial, which reads, "The legal system can force open doors and sometimes even knock down walls, but it cannot build bridges. That job belongs to you and me." I look forward to working with each of you over the coming year, and thank you very much for this opportunity.